All right, well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Pennsylvania College of Technology in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. We're doing a pork demonstration, and that's the featured item today, and we're going to do a barbecued pulled pork pizza with butternut squash and arugula. So I enlisted one of my friends, Darren Layre, from Alta Via in Pittsburgh, one of my former students and now successful chef. His restaurant does a lot of things. They're Mediterranean. They do a lot of things with pizzas. So I enlisted him to help with the pizza dough, and that's the recipe that you'll be able to see. Now, because of the timeline with this entire recipe needs to, there's some items that need to be done the day before. One of which is the yeast dough, and the other one, you can do the pulled pork. Originally, this was designed to utilize leftover pork, and after you've had a half a dozen pulled pork sandwiches, you might want to know what to do with the last little bit. So this would be a great recipe for that. So let me just quickly show you. You can take your pork butt. The recipe says sear. Well, we can sear it a number of ways. We could do it on the stove top, or we could do it in the oven, which is going to be the way I'm going to do it today. And the recipe is included for our pulled pork spices. I think one of the interesting ingredients in this recipe is the curry, something you might not always expect to find in a spice blend for barbecue. But at any rate, and you can be a little bit generous with this. And what really works nice is if you get a chance, put this on an hour or two ahead of time. And fat's a good vehicle. It has salt and sugar in it, so it does work as a cure. And give it a chance to soak in a little bit. Now, this is going to be a combination cooking method if you sear it off on top of the stove. But I'm just going to do I would first put it in like this, get a little bit of a sear on it. We'll then add water and put it in here covered. Now, again, I mentioned that the recipe for the pizza dough is attached. This is a yeast dough. And it can be tricky, it can be intimidating, especially for a savory chef like me. That's why I enlisted somebody that knows more about it than I do. And we want to use cold water. You want to get all your dry ingredients in your mixing bowl. And with any cooking procedure, it's step by step. Have all your ingredients at your fingertips. So you have the dry ingredients in the bowl. Keep the salt and the yeast separated as much as you can, because the salt will kill the yeast. And then we're gonna, as we start to mix the dry ingredients, we're gonna take a slow, steady stream of the cold water. And I work with this dough. It's gonna come away from the bowl cleanly, and it'll be nice to work with. You're gonna put it in a larger bowl than what looks like the volume of dough, because it's gonna double in size. So it's gonna be refrigerated overnight, and then we get it out. And we work it a little bit, and we end up with a nice ball of dough. And what I'm going to do at this point, I'm not going to throw it in the air. I hope I don't disappoint anyone, but what I am going to do is begin to fold it into itself. And then I'm going to work it with my hands till it gets warm, and I'm going to push it out into this sheet tray. Now, one thing to remember with all of this is sanitation. I began the process by sanitizing the entire work area, all my equipment, all my tools, and then we can go to work. And so I'm just pushing and working the dough into the pan. And as it warms up and as you work it a little bit more, it gets to be a little more forgiving. And the next step would be I'm gonna par bake this dough after I get it to fit in the pan properly. So hope Darren's not watching too closely. Again, this is his area of expertise, and this is a great product. Again, I said Darren's working in Pittsburgh at a restaurant in the Big Burrito Group called Alta Via. We sent some of our students there, and Darren's been pretty successful out in Pittsburgh since he left Penn College in 2013, as have many of his classmates. Christina Wisniewski is down in Philadelphia at Ripplewood Whiskey, and she's been a 2-time CHOP winner. One of my very first students, Dean Yasharian, he's in Pasadena. He was the first one of our students to win Chopped. And he just opened up his restaurant, Pearl, in Pasadena. Even in these challenging times. So as I work it a little bit more, it's beginning to cooperate. I like to par bake. I could assemble the pizza right on this dough like this, but I like to par bake it a little bit so that the crust stays nice and crisp and doesn't get all soggy with all these different ingredients on it. Then you can see this recipe pretty much fits into a half of a standard sheet tray. I'm not quite done pushing it all out yet. And I laid the recipe out kind of step by step, but there's the different components of the dough, the pulled pork, the caramelized onions. To be a good chef, you should be able to be a multitasker and do more than one thing at a time. And so I'm going to get the caramelized onions going also. I'm going to use a saute pan. This is called a sauteuse. You got to get the right tool for the right job. You put in enough oil to coat the bottom of the pan. Sauteing works best when you get your oil in your pan hot first. And if you know, I said this is a sauteuse. The sides are curved, and I'll demonstrate in a minute once I get the product in the pan. I think I just about got the dough where I want it. And remember, folks, this is pizza. We're having fun, right? Pizza's fun. I'm not going to tell you how to do things. The assembly's entirely up to you. Well, I got I'm smelling those spices. I got the oven door open. I'm gonna add a little bit of water. I like to go up at least halfway. Hear the sizzle, be careful when you do this. I like to cover it a half to 2/3 of the way up. I'll leave it in there a couple hours. I'll probably flip it over. We'd cover this and we'll get it back in the oven. And I have my dough is in there. Par baking, I'll take about 5 minutes. My pan is hot. I look for little ripples or waves. That may be a little too much oil, but that's all right. And then we have to watch this because we don't want to burn them. They're called things. There's a couple items on this recipe. That we're going to brown nicely. One of them being the onions, the other one being the butternut squash. And the reason caramelization has to take place in an oven over 300 degrees or a pan over 300. Onions and the squash have a higher sugar content, so they're gonna brown up nicely. Now, and see how I'm pulling the pan towards me. And I'm letting the pan do the work. And I leave it on the range. I just pulled it up for the sake of demonstration. But let's work safe. Let's keep it right on the stove top, please. And so while I got that going on, I got a butternut squash. You can blanch them in some boiling water or steam them a little bit to make them easier to peel. You see, I got the outer surface off, and now I'm going to just take my peeler. I'm working over my cutting board. I want to work cleanly, neatly, and safely. And I just want to get some nice curls. You know, at the farm show and with our visiting chef series, we have many opportunities to work with a lot of great people. And many of our students have gone on to do great things, and I like to keep in touch with them. And I was working with another student who did a big party with pizzas, a pulled pork pizza, and that's kind of where the idea came from. And he added the squash, and I just thought that was such a great visual, an additional flavor component, and just more fun. Who would ever thought, huh? So there's my squash. And while I still have a few minutes on the pizza crust, so let's mix the barbecue sauce. Listen, when we're cooking, everything at your fingertips. And I want to get things in order now. I have the salt and pepper right there, but I'm going to put these dry ingredients: chili powder, a little brown sugar, all those smaller part teaspoons of things, the ginger, the onion powder, the granulated garlic. They're going in there. Sesame oil. Now, what does that tell you? I mean, it adds a great flavor. It adds to the flavor profile, but now we've just introduced an allergen for any of your friends or guests that may have a seed allergen, sesame seed. But what's really crazy about this recipe is that we have sweet, we have hot, we have sour, we have all these different textures going on. It's just a fun recipe. And then ketchup. Could be one of the mother sauces. So, and what's nice about this, the recipe I gave you for the spice blend and the barbecue sauce, you're gonna have some left over, but it's just a nice thing to have around. I don't have to apply any heat to this. Sometimes I add it to like pork stock or chicken stock and make a specific kind of barbecue sauce. I'm gonna give my dough another couple minutes. I do have some nice pork. Like I said, this was made to use up leftovers, and I'm just about ready to start assembling the pizza. And as I said before, listen, it's pizza, have fun. You can do whatever you want with this. My caramelized onions are coming along. If you have the pork cooked in advance and the dough cooked in advance, look, we're only in about the 15-20 minute mark at this point. So I'm gonna get my pizza dough out. It's got a little bit of crispness to it. You can see how the yeast impacted it. The recipe calls for provolone cheese. How much cheese, Chef Mike? Well, listen, it's pizza, huh? You like cheese? Put some cheese on it. And it can be any kind of, you know, there's some really nice cheeses. I had introduced to a cheese called Mimolette that was really kind of fun. Color-wise, flavor-wise, I'm a fan of Asiago. There's nothing like a nice aged grated Parmesan. And, you know, go talk to your farmers or artisans, see what they've got going on. And have fun. Put your favorite cheese on here. I just happen to have some provolone handy. Now listen, gloves. I could wear gloves. The rule with those, anything that goes from my hands right to you, the consumer, I have to wear gloves. And you know, they aren't a bad idea for other things. In the drier months, your hands will absorb anything you're working with. I like to wear gloves when I'm working with fish or something like that. But I'm gonna cook this, so therefore I don't need the gloves. But it's an awareness piece. I want you to be thinking about it. How much pork do I put on, Chef Mike? Well, how much you got left over? Here in the restaurant, we're in the utilization business. Every day is a market basket. I look in the refrigerator. I see what I got to use up, come up with some specials. Now, this was, the spice was rubbed into it when I braised it, but I'm gonna put a little bit more on there, okay? And let's not forget our nice caramelized onions. We're in the flavor business, and each one of these little items is adding that unique flavor of its own and coming together. Like I said, this thing has spicy, it has sweet, it has a little sour. It's got the savory. So, do you like onions? All right, there's the onion. I'm gonna put a little bit of squash on here, the shaved butternut. Look how this is coming to life. Just with these different color schemes. Get that back in the oven. I got the oven running at about 375 with the fan on. Increases efficiency, and so there you have it. Now I'm going to just put the finishing touches on it, and I just wanted to show you You can do this in a wood pizza oven we happen to have here at the college. Cheese is nicely browned, the squash, and then we're gonna finish it with a little bit of arugula. Man, what a unique flavor arugula has. I love it. There's so much going on this pizza, and it's been fun to do it for you. I hope you'll have a great time making it. Find your favorite showpiece. And now, because it is going right to you, I'll put the gloves on. Oh my gosh, the crust is just as nice and crisp. And depending who's coming or how many portions you want, I know which piece I want right now. And now let's not forget, let's drizzle a little bit of our nice barbecue sauce on this. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, barbecued pulled pork pizza. And thanks, Darren, for helping us out.